살인 사건이 얼마만이야?
문화장 살해 혐의로 체포한다.
제일 중요한 게 네가 그날 밤 일 기억나는 거. 우리 아들이 안 그랬거든요. 내 아들은 아니야.
저 자신이 갖고 있는 약간 이상한 관점이나
This is a very famous actress in Korea. She's been acting for about 40 years, but the main reason that I wanted to make this film was because I had my own, if you can call it, a strange sense about her, that whenever I saw her in the things that she was in, that I felt that this person could be a very crazy person. I wanted to portray a kind of hysteric, crazy kind of mother, and that's where it started off.
광기라는 거는
I think as an actress
광기를 갖고 있다.
or an actor, I think to be portrayed, to be crazy, is something that's a very good quality in an actor or an actress. It's something to be hysteric about something. I think is something that will point them in a different direction that shows you something that he hasn't seen before. And specifically in her case, she's been portraying very stereotypical kind of loving mothers that she never had to do something like this. And I think there's a different side of her that we can't get in contact with.
나름 한국의 그 텔레비전 드라마들을
If you could count family dramas on TV as its own genre, yes, I did want to subvert that and kind of play with that notion. And I think it was interesting for me because the actress has been portraying this very role that she's been playing for all this time. And to have that actor subvert her own self and kind of play with that and work with that was an interesting idea that I wanted to play with.
있는 거는 사실인데
It's true that there is a bit of that in the Mother, but it's very much less so than my previous films. I'd say with Memories of Murder, that was trying to invoke a very specific sense of the 80s Korea and society of that time. And with Host, I was trying to kind of poke into the sensibilities and the paradoxes of American society and Korean society of obviously more modern times. And but more so in this film, it's more about the relationship between the son and mother. But there are still some elements. The very fact that she becomes her own detective because the cops are not doing their, and the lawyer is not being very responsive. That simple fact alone, I think, says a bit about what kind of stance that I'm taking and what kind of stance she's taking in that sense.
그 말씀하신 섹스씬이 제가 별로 경험이 없어서
See, that sex scene was particularly difficult. I really tried, because as you said, I didn't have a sex scene before and it was my first time doing one. It was a very difficult and challenge for me, and I really wanted to get it right. But that last scene of her dancing on that bus was actually a very big challenge. You could also say that the whole movie is running to that scene. It's the scene that is essential and it was there from the beginning. It's something that we can't replace with a different kind of scene, and it was a very important scene. When I was writing the script in 2004 for Mother, that scene was, like I said before, it was the scene that was there from the very beginning, and it had to be shot and it had to be made possible because the sunlight passes through the bus windows and comes into the camera. I really wanted to get that right. I really did not want to use any CG. There's no CG in that section. You had to get the film right, the angle of the sun right. There had to be no buildings. We had to have the car coming at the same speed as the bus. So there was a lot of calculations that we had to make, and we had to make a lot of preparations, and it came out very much so as I liked it. And
제가 좀 생각이 변태적이라서 그런지
you must have a very perverse mind or something.
내가
Oh, I do.
I'm pervert.
Strangely enough, dealing with this kind of character is actually easy and comfortable for me. It's not too foreign. Rather than simply to entice sympathy or portray them in a cruel manner, I think what's more important with this character is that the ambiguous quality about him. That ultimately we don't know what this son really is. As the film progresses, we learn more and more that this person is someone we can't figure out. Unless you really crack open the brain and look into him, there's a multitude of things that we come in contact through him. There's the fear and the frustration and the horror that he might be, and those are the qualities that we don't completely get to see it have a sense of. More importantly, this movie is from the perspective of the mother as she looks and takes care of and is concerned with her son. But I think the ultimate tragedy is that even she, for someone that was so devoted and so into the existence of her son, is that even she can't figure out who this person really is, even though he's her son. That's the ultimate tragedy.
뭐 세부적인 어떤 테크닉이나 연출.
I haven't studied specifically or tried to emulate it, but I do have many directors that I like and respect, and I think if that's the case, you tend to have similarities or in your working style.
일본 감독 중에 그 이마무라 쇼헤이라는.
There's a Japanese filmmaker, Imamura Shohei, who I believe approaches some very hidden aspects of human instincts and basic emotional responses that is able to bring up those kinds of things very well. And there's a Korean filmmaker from the 60s and 70s, a master filmmaker called Kim Gi-young, is recently at Cannes Film Festival. Scorsese had a restored print of The Housemaid, which was directed by this guy. And I think Kim Gi-young has a very unique style and a very, in some ways, grotesque kind of filmmaking that is very notable. It might not be very big or auteurish kind of filmmaking, but I also like 70s films from America. The studio films that were mainly centered or made possible by big producers and stuff like that from that era. I think they carry their own power and aura that's very interesting. Even popular box office hits from those studios and such are some things that I enjoy.
한국에서도 그러니까 이 영화 마더 그러니까
I think the characters of mothers, I think are very unique to each person that will encounter this film. Even in Korea, where it was made, audiences there had their own views and their own reactions, and in whether this viewpoint was clashing or in line with what their expectations of a mother was. I think that'll be the same place wherever this film goes, because a mother is a very universal person to everyone, and I think the unique reactions will be different, and I really can't expect anything. Of course, there's lots of movies being remade from Asia and stuff like that, and Host obviously is another one, and it is being remade by Hollywood, but I think more importantly, the question for us is what kind of new and fresh things can we come up with. In Korea, where I made this film, and my other previous films, it's obviously a much smaller industry, and they give more control to the directors that way. But it also makes me question, if I had the chance to come here, or given the opportunity, would I have the same kind of control that I have with my own films? I'm actually not tied to that remake at all. I have no hand in it, I think it's more interesting when a remake is completely different from the source material, and I hope that I can see some of that kind of fresh things in the remake.
저희 어머니도 좀 히스테릭한 면이 있으시고 걱정.
There are very small bits and pieces of her in this film. I mean, my mom was a somewhat hysteric person, and mainly she worried a lot about her offspring. She has 2 sons and 2 daughters, and there's very small bits of her in this character. But last year or so, she watched a screening of this film and hasn't since then this is a movie that we don't really talk about when we see each other. It's something that we don't bring up.
내가 죽을 줄을 쳤다.